Hello and welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. My name is Rafi. Please check us out on our 4 different YouTube channels, our BitChute, and please join the Roundtable Discord where we do daily events, voice chats, and everything else. I'm here with Drac'aar, and we are going to be talking about the multidimensional aspects of our reality and energy work basics, our connection to these realms as multidimensional beings, how energy work is relevant, external energy influences, and how we express our own energy in our environment. How are you doing, Drac'aar?
Pretty good.
That's awesome. This is a subject I'm actually really excited to talk about and hear your opinion about. So, would you like to start us off with potentially the multidimensional aspects of our reality?
Right. I understand humans and as well as many other intelligent beings as being multidimensional, meaning more than just physical, connected to both less and more complex realities of existence, comparative to physical in complexity. And this leaves room for being able to operate on those realms while being in the physical or having outer body experiences in those realms. I think that these aspects of reality all simultaneously occur and wouldn't exist the same way without those other realities and their influences. So what it means is that we as humans are connected to these other realms.
So, what are some influences from these other realms that you're talking about that would affect us?
Well, speaking from my own experience, not from any sort of viewpoint, like religion or philosophy, our connection to the astral exists primarily, and most people will be familiar with this, is the dream realm, which I refer to as the less complex reality, which would be more governed by conceptual understandings. In the physical, since when we dream, we're also still connected to our physical bodies. It is relevant and dependent on our physical lives. So these concepts are generally, when we dream, developed from our human understanding of our physical reality, and that's where these concepts come from and how we define them. Our experiences will define a dream symbol, for example, and that symbol is only defined by that individual. So in a dream, snakes doesn't necessarily mean that's a dream symbol because it depends on the person. Like, for me, it's a very good symbol. In the physical realm, it governs our thoughts and how it circulates. And when it comes to the ethereal, which I refer to as the more complex reality that we're connected to, is relevant more to our feelings and our spiritual relationships and how we interact with other humans and even animals.
So,
go ahead.
What makes one realm of consciousness more complex and one less complex? Why are dreams less complex than a higher consciousness while awake?
Well, I'm not necessarily understanding of the whys, because I would have to understand how these realms were created to begin with. But if I were to take a gander, I would say that since these realms are adjacent to our physical realm, and that we have the connection to them, that they wouldn't be able to operate simultaneously as efficiently if one was just as complex as the other. Since our focus point is the physical, it's not so much plausible, I would say, to operate on 2 separate physical planes than it would be to this one.
I see. So you use the word multidimensional. So that's a pretty powerful word, and multidimensional aspects of our reality. So how is our reality multidimensional in your definition of it?
Well, that's a reference to us as humans, as taking a human form in all intelligent life that would operate on the same standards. I would assume that other intelligent life that has psychic ability, for example, are those connected to these individual realms as well. I am aware of certain types of beings that aren't and are purely physical. So that's also a thing. Now, when I say multidimensional, I mean simultaneously occurring realities, like layers. But a sort of time that goes by. Like you'll understand just a little bit more when I share my screen, because there's a good little spot there that shows like three type of three horizontal lines, one above the other, and a vertical line that you could kind of like imagine in your head as playing like a Windows Media Player or YouTube, where you see the bar go across as the video continues, except it's going across all three planes of existences at once. So it's it just means we are connected to these realities, but never truly disconnect from these realities, and that we have our focus point wherever we are in regards to our current experiences. And because of that, we can operate on both realms in the physical. We do operate on those terms. On our day-to-day lives, we don't necessarily have to focus on these things for these things to occur. They're always occurring simultaneously. So even right now, you and everybody listening is going to be experiencing this all the time.
So I guess that works into energy work. So if there's these different multidimensional layers of reality that we're connected with, does where does energy work come into that, I guess, and where is our place in that multidimensional layer, those layers?
Energy work primarily, but not solely, refers to operating using the ethereal, and with being conscious and focused on honing in on the physical, like we are right now. Generally speaking, one would meditate to increase our energy flow, which would increase the rate at which we send and receive energy. And what that does is make us more sensitive, which is the receiving part, and make our external environment be more influenced by the energy work that we conduct. And this is not of anything as extreme as something like telekinesis, but rather our interactions with other beings that also operate on these realms. So energy work usually primarily refers to that, and working with other beings, but not always.
So you said energy work is working in the ethereal. Could you talk about more of the ethereal realm and what happens in that and our connection to it?
Okay, sure. Some people who have had outer body experiences and describe this realm as being a simple awareness in a very complex realm, where this realm is comprised of way more complex and too difficult to explain shapes and colors that just simply don't exist in the physical reality. Like even if you were a very, very good skilled master drawer or an artist or whatever, you would probably fail at trying to describe these things. Some people did good digital art, and it sort of gives you an idea, but until you're really actually there, it's one of them all awesome or awe-inspiring like experiences. So that's when you're actually out of body and existing within that realm. So if someone experiences that and comes back and they're like, "Wow, okay, this is that." That's the kind of realm we're always connected. And that's what energy work is primarily used as a foundational aspect. As a day-to-day person, energy work is always exchanged, or energy, I mean, is always exchanged within us from our external environment, and we always influence our environment. It's something that's not constant and doesn't go away. So right now, everybody is having an influence on their environment to a degree. The increase in energy flow I spoke of earlier would refer to the rate at which you send and receive energy. Not so much the content or how much, but the rate. And what that does is that increase in energy flow, if someone's able to achieve it, will expand their energy field. And what that does is create a wider parameter of how much energy does come in. It automatically adjusts to the rate at which it's coming in. And that expansion will allow you to sense more in your environment, and will also allow you to influence your environment simultaneously far more than your normal state.
So you can expand the energy field and increase the rate of incoming energy into your multidimensional form. What is that? What happens when you increase that energy?
Like I said, when you increase the energy, that your energy field expands and you become more sensitive to your environment, and your environment becomes more influenced by you.
Yeah, your energy field expands. What does it mean when your energy field expands as you increase your energy? What, like, is that a physical sensation, or is that something that unlocks new skills, or what happens when you increase that? And
Well, like I said, the energy field expands as a result of the increased energy flow of meditation, and therefore um, is a side effect or direct effect of increasing that flow. What you feel certainly is more of a sensation. Your touch, sight, smell, taste will all increase, and I think that this is one reason why, not just for focus reasons, but why some martial artists, especially traditional martial artists, will meditate before they train or before they get into competition, because not just because of the focus, but because of the alignment of their current understanding, the increase in flow, and the sensations that their sensory organs allows them to practically use this in martial arts and be able to sense the air on their skin when somebody moves much better. If you understand what a blind man feels when they can't see, these other senses that get increased as a result of losing that sense. Yes, the brain doesn't have to process more. Yes, but it's a wonderful comparison to someone who does increase their energy flow, because with all these increased senses, you can just imagine how their competitions and trainings will occur with much more smoothness and without so much effort. And the influence that they have on reality when someone increases their energy field, energy flow, and therefore their energy field expands, will affect how much influence they have on reality. And this is directly in correlation with somebody who has psychic ability and can access reality and affect it physically, or affect someone else's energy field, or their grid system using energy work.
wow. And that also goes into outer body experiences when you increase that energy work.
It potentially can, if you're able to enter a meditative state and reach a certain point and sort of get these pulling or sort of releasing sensations. Or my favorite is the tingling in your hands, which some people call psi energy, but personally, it's simply a result of you not having so much experience in these states, and ending up with these sensations of vibrations crawling up to your chest, and then eventually face, and then your top of your head, and this part where most people, if they continue to go down what they're like feeling, and not like feel any fear, because it is scary for especially first time. Some people might experience muscle contractions or things like that too, because the vibrations they're real. Your body is, your nervous system is actually feeling that. And yeah, when it gets to your forehead, especially, that's like borderline. You're almost there, and let go. You feel like you're entering, you're pulling into this other reality, but it's very quick, and you end up in that realm where you have no physical form. You're just an awareness pushing yourself around.
Could you describe what it's like once you get to that place where you are just an awareness?
Briefly, yeah. It's like, well, I mean, like I said, it's kind of indescribable, but like, that's all I could really say is there's colors, sensations, more than your senses in your physical body, and everything you use as far as your sensory organs goes. You can just imagine, if you had no form but you're having feelings that you can't describe, having sights that you can't describe, that with in aspects of geometry and the colors, and even the content. See, everything is far more detailed, and everything else as well, as far as your senses go. And you're literally just in awareness. I mean, if you can be described as anything, just a floating ball of energy or awareness, and you push yourself. I kind of don't understand the mechanics of that because you like, how do you do it? I don't know. You just kind of like think about it and do it. It happens, and for me, when I'm moving around like that in this reality, it's just like really, really, really like good feeling, like pleasurable, and you're like, it's like there's this like substance that you're moving yourself along, and it's doing so when you move along. The motion alone tickles you. Yeah, it gives you very pleasant feelings, but it's also overwhelming.
Wow. Yeah, because when you were explaining the outer body experience earlier in relation to the ethereal, it kind of sounded almost psychedelic. The true experience of touching it almost sounded very never ending and like fractal.
Yeah, it's very much so like that. I don't think it like I said, the people who make DMT pictures and all that. I don't think it's quite as defined as that, but it's probably the best like visual understanding that you can find here.
So how similar is that realm to dreams then? And have you had any dreams that have been similar to this like out of body realm?
No, dreams, and I'm very, very well versed in dreams and mastering your dream reality and escaping your dreamscape to enter the astral realm. That's not necessarily the only way you can do so. You could use astral projection while awake, and it's also working with the conceptual realm and just a tiny bit with the ethereal, not so much with that. But you can also perform energy work before you are sleeping, for example, to like prelude something you intend on doing, such as dreamwalking.
What's dreamwalking?
Dreamwalking is simply exiting your dream reality and entering someone else's dream reality, and that requires a lot more description to understand what that is.
Hmm. Wow.
It's up to you if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, well, if you, yeah, sure.
Fine. So, in a dream, our dreamscape is comprised of ourselves. If there's no other external forces that would, like an astral entity or another human that would enter your dream realm, then everything in your dream, what you experience in your dream, is you. All the objects, all the people, everything in there, the content of your dreams, it's all you. And therefore, when you become lucid in a dream, you can manipulate these aspects of your dream because it is you. There's no prerequisite there. It's automatic. And because of that, people who start lucid dreaming often and master their dream reality get sort of like bored eventually, because they could eventually break down their dream into absolute nothingness or its base components and recreate a whole new dream scenario out of nothing. Once you're at that point, in my opinion, you're reached a master of your dream state. And at that point, with that boredom, if someone doesn't know how to extend beyond that understanding and that skill, I'm sorry, if they do know how, then they're able to instinctually or through someone telling them, know that their dream reality doesn't extend on forever, and that it's contained within the astral. So when somebody learns how to extend their awareness, and in fact, this is probably where I'm going to throw up some screen shares, Rafi.
Okay.
Hold on, got this. All right.
So while you're getting that up, can I ask how much does this energy work help you in dream work? Like how much does daily energy work in conscious life affect you when you're sleeping?
I mean, it really depends on what kind of energy work you're talking about. There's various forms, but if we're talking in general, um, I would say that energy work in itself makes you pay attention more to your external environment, and because of that, your dream content, rather the vividness of your dream, and how much goes on, how long they last, and all that, it has a direct correlation with energy work and how much you experience in your dreams. I've had that effect from a lot of people that I've given um, sort of suggestions to in regards to energy work, and if they go along and they stay with me, it's not uncommon for these people to say that their dreams are becoming more vivid, etc.
So did you see an advantage in that whenever you started doing energy work in your dreams immediately? Like, did you even have to think about it and cross it over into the dreamscape, or was it automatic? Like, whenever you started working with energy and realizing this type of stuff?
I started working with energy work like probably around when I was 11 or 12. So it's like it's kind of hard to go back that far and notice like take note of how my dreams were affected.
Hmm. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Are you gonna pull up something to show us?
Right. Sorry, I got it up. I forgot to put it on screen. This is a great podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we could focus on one of these questions and really expand upon that. But this is a good like general understanding. All right. Hold it. Tell me when you have it up.
All right, I got it up. You can show us what you'd like.
I'll wait for other people to join because they're also following. Let's give it like 10 or 15 seconds. So.
This is an interesting graph. I'm excited to see what you have to say about this.
On the top right, it shows what I've been talking about as far as the 3 layers go. Talking about the physical, astral, ethereal, and here's the bar, which is the present moment. And of course, this is affected by the astral, that line, talking about present moment and our dreamscape. Now, I guess I could expand more on dreamwalking using this graph here. It's a little bit easier. But just to let you know, I'm not going to get into how to do so just yet in this podcast. All right, so here is your focus point in your dream. This is where you are centered at when you dream. And here's your entire dream reality represented by the circle, and the content of your dream is all in here. If you are going to try to do something like dreamwalking or astral projecting, and you're using your dream state or dreamscape, dream state, then you would do something that would extend or project your awareness to the edge of your dreamscape, represented by here. What you have to do now, I'm going to give it like a little scenario here. Don't pretend like you're here dreaming, and let's say you're even in lucid dream state. Oh, can everybody still hear me? Because I'm getting like
I can hear you. Yeah, somebody keeps joining and leaving. That's awkward, but it's okay.
Okay. So long as I'm not lagging, that's all. All right. So if you were in the center of this dreamscape and you're lucid state dreaming, am I leaving and joining, or is it
No,
just...
you're not.
It's not you. Somebody's probably having connection problems.
Oh, yeah. It's somebody who has.
It's just like...
Okay. Anyway, Drac'aar, would you mind walking us through kind of this graph, kind of from the beginning, just so we get an idea of what we're looking at here? Because I think I'm a little confused.
Well, I'm gonna throw myself down on do not disturb, so I don't get all these notifications.
Yes, good idea.
All right. Can you see?
Yeah.
All right. So what I was describing was that if you're at the center of your dream state at all times, and let's say you're lucid state dreaming, and you're walking down a road, for example, and this road goes on, you're in the middle of an open day, like a open daytime, and this road seemingly goes, and you start walking down it, then this entire dreamscape edge will remain around you and follow you wherever you go. You're not actually going anywhere. More or less, you're on a conveyor belt. But to describe it more, it's like if you move this way, for example, the dreamscape will follow you with you at the center. So there's no point in going down the road, even though you're lucid streaming, to eventually go to the edge of your dream reality. What you have to do is essentially meditate in your dream while you're dreaming, and start practicing what you might be familiar with, using similar methods as the astral projection by locating a remote viewing, in which you are the center and you stay at the center, but you're projecting outward with your awareness. And eventually, if you keep projecting out in any direction, doesn't matter which, you will reach similar to what you would consider, like, the details of your dream will start to get less and less detailed, to the point to where you almost feel like you're on the outside of a map on a video game like Halo or something, where all the like little objects are like floating all over the place, and random like dissociated positions, and like areas where you're like you're just walking on the floor and you're looking down and it's just like you fall forever. But eventually you'll reach a point where it's just sort of, for me anyway, and for other people it's a little bit different, but there's sort of a blur, almost like a invisible area where it is so blurred you can't really see past it, and it's sort of scary. I mean, like, I don't want to go there. It's too blurry. I'm gonna fade into existence. but you can't actually pass it. It's almost like a resistance to the point to where there's no way. So what you have to do is basically work on methods to reach the other side of your wall here, and in doing so you'll enter the astral plane, and that makes something like dreamscaping possible. With me?
Because there's a connection between them and they're in the... Yeah, okay. So since there's a connection between everything and all of this is one, then the dreamscape can connect to the rest of it. So that's interesting. I think it would be... Could you walk us through all the points you have on this real quick in the ethereal realm and the astral realm?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, like I was saying verbally, here is the present moment, and that's represented like if it were to go in this direction here. Sorry, my mouse is crappy. That direction, and like a Windows Media Player bar or YouTube bar, it just plays, and we're simultaneously existing on these. For the purpose of this agreement, it's 3 dimensions, three one adjacent to the lower and less complex, the astral, and the upper and more complex with the ethereal. Now, this bar goes on pretty much forever, and so does it go down here pretty much forever. People like to describe things and like, oh, this is 3-dimensional, this is 2-dimensional. Well, what do you do when you go lower than the the negative one? But it's kind of like better to consider this 0, and for the negatives to represent the lesser and the positives to represent the more complex realities. Now, don't take this like as it's going to be or is easy to extend past the ethereal. It's difficult, not as practical, and hardly as applicable to energy work in the physical. But as far as that dream walking goes, getting outside of your dream and making dream walking possible, this is where the strategy, if you're intending on dream walking, to make yourself adjacent, similar to these realms here, to someone else's dream. Because now that you're in the astral, you ask yourself, how do I find said person who may or may not be dreaming and enter their dream? Those are all different skills that require further understanding and experience. Like, once you hit the edge of your dreamscape and you're in the astral, then you have to work on finding a person's dreamscape, if it's there. Now, people's dreamscape are always there, even if they're not dreaming. but that doesn't mean they're dreaming. And if you dreamwalk somebody who's consciously awake, for example, then you'll effectively, hopefully with their permission, be influenced. Okay, never mind. Influencing. Okay, I'm sorry, I got myself on Do Not Disturb, and it's making these noises anyway, but that's okay.
Oh, you were talking about if
you
you're
could just tell-
dreamscaping?
if you're trying to find a dream out in the astral after you've exited your dream reality, it's a whole nother subject to find another edge that's specifically the person that you're trying to dreamwalk. Get to the edge, pass their dream barrier, which is different than passing this dream barrier, and ending up on this side. And at that point, you basically have to access this person's subconscious or the concepts that make up the dreamscape and their center. And because of that, you can still be a nothing awareness and find their center and communicate with them that way. It's not so difficult to do that, but if someone you're dreamwalking isn't like also a avid lucid dreamer and is likely to be dreaming, then what's best way to get their attention is to take the form of one of the characters in their dream, which takes you being able to pick up on those concepts, adjust yourself, and change form and relevance to that construct, and approach their represented form, the center, while they're dreaming, and introduce yourself and say, "Hey, yeah, I'm your buddy, whatchamacallit, and I'm here." And they'll probably misinterpret. The one thing I had to do on one of my successful dream walks is like smack the person and tell them that they're dreaming. One time I tried doing that, dude, wake up. It was pretty funny, but most of the time that really gets their attention. Tell them they're dreaming and tell them who you are. You get screaming at them. It's effective that way, and usually get the picture.
Can
but
can I ask a
I should very,
question?
very
What happened when the person who you were dreamwalking in their dream woke up? What was the experience like for you when that happened?
like a slingshot. Now, when you're out here in these dream realities, or I'm sorry, the astral realm, and you're out of your dream reality, there's a tether between like you and your core still. And you travel the astral plane with this tether still on you. In fact, some people, like notably without it knowing, having prior knowledge of this, will say that they could recognize, see, or feel one of the or the actual tether that they're attached to, and it's really hard to. It's not as simple as like, oh, this is leading this way, but it is. It's just you can go squiggly line all over the astral realm, and it's still going to have, if you're here, it's still going to have a connection this way to where you originally exited your dream reality. So that tether is the reason why you can't just go out there and like most people are afraid of when they get out there, like they won't ever return to original selves or things like that. Well, it's actually pretty much impossible, and unless they die physically, their focus point is on the physical realm, and that's where all this branches off of. And until their physical selves die, all other existences on the other realms will continue to exist. And physical death is more or less a transference of the same connection we have also on these ethereal and more complex and less complex realms of existence, in which we return in a different mode, because in this human body, for the most part, we have memories and understand this reality based on our birth and death cycle in this reality. And if this would be represented of you at the current moment, this would be when you were born, or around that time, then your current life experience only encompasses this. And this goes into a little bit more of like my philosophy on these things, in which you're more than just your physical body, more than just this life, and your soul is the compromisation. The cumulative you, and the cumulative you is multiple existences that make up your soul's experience and its complexity as well. And that's relevant to your origin, your soul origin. in its complexity and where you branched off of. Are you still there? Is everyone still there?
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
So there you go. We can talk about energy and how it enters, we interpret it, and we send it or express it, and how it affects our physical reality in terms of energy work.
How does it?
So, increasing your energy flow, like I said, increases how. In fact, I'm just going to represent it very simply by one bar here. Here's our center. This is the crown diaphragm. Oops. Diaphragm. That sucks. Hold on. Diaphragm, and we got our root. And grid network system as well. These represent what basically ground or anchor ourselves into the physical realm and into our bodies. Our body is like a central anchor, and this body has a sort of connection to all these energetic influx points that are a little bit more detailed than I'd like to get into, but they govern how your energy flows throughout your body and where the sensations and how the content of these sensations, how we experience the ingoing energy flow. So in fact, I'm just going to get rid of all that and use this bar like I originally intended. Sorry, I'm really bad at drawing. Like
Your drawings are making sense, though.
Okay, that's a good thing. So yeah, this is our present moment, for example, our center, and this will be our ingoing energy flow, and then our energy fields, similar to this. Not so. It's a little bit more complex than the Dreamscape and Astral Realm, but it doesn't matter. It's basically the same concept. So energy that we're experiencing, which is everything, by the way, including physical sensations, it still gets transferred as an energy flow. As far as like someone touching you or something touching you, etc., you're still experiencing a form of external stimuli, which is all of reality can be explained in terms of energy, which is ethereal. When you perform or are trying to focus more on energy work, you're focusing more on the connection you have right here between your physical self and the ethereal, and your astral existence helps in terms of where you're placing your thoughts and your feelings while you meditate and get into the state in which these increase, and therefore energy field increases. And I should say expand. When you receive energy that is coming from your external environment, which is all directions, happens from all directions. Like there is no specific area where it comes from unless you're speaking to somebody over here in the physical, in their energy work, or their energy is specifically affecting you, which you would be looking at them in a certain direction. But in general, when nothing is affecting you like that from like another person's flow of energy, then just in general, if you were in a room by yourself and there wasn't anybody around, only your immediate surroundings and a slight like area beyond your energy field has an effect on you. And so this is why when we increase our energy flow, why we have an increase in our sensations, as far as thoughts and feelings, and in terms of our sensory organs, our sight, our touch, etc. People who do undergo psychedelic experiences will likely, feel the same thing. even if they're having a bad experience, it's actually why they have a bad psychedelic experience, because it forces things out, and you start experiencing far more energy coming in than bodily sensations. Everything's increased, period. And psychedelics is a bit of a different subject compared to like meditating and increasing your energy flow. But it isn't unsimilar, and you can learn a lot from those experiences in terms of energy work. So this is your center. This is where everything enters, and this is where everything is interpreted. That center, represented by, like I said, the crown, the diaphragm, and the root, is the central base, if you will. It's the place where everything comes and goes, but you're at the center. You are the center, actually. And after basically you interpret the energy that's coming in, and interpret the reality based on the energy flow, which happens automatically. Energy is released from you simultaneously. Now, this is happening simultaneously. This here, your external energy flow and your influence on your environment, and the incoming energy flow and your environment's influence on you. Simultaneously means that at the same given time, you're receiving energy just as you're expressing, and it evens itself out. If you have what people refer to as blocks, like you increase your receiving energy, but there's a block preventing you, which is usually associated with your grid system in your physical body, but not always. But it could be entirely mental, like as in you're thinking about something, or something about for example, someone who underwent a trauma and hadn't exactly gotten over it. Doing these types of practices will likely uncover and start to pull back the layers of fog and dissociation between you and those experiences, and this could potentially put someone at risk to uncovering memories that they may not necessarily remembered initially, because that's a phenomenon of trauma, to lose your memory. And that self-defense mechanism to prevent somebody like totally go insane over a particular trauma. So this is your expressive energy. At all given times, you are also expressing energy, just as you're receiving it. And if you use the same explanation that your external environment is always affecting you no matter what, and you can't prevent it, then you're always increasing your energy. I'm sorry, that you're always expressing energy and are affecting your environment at all times. It's not something you can just omit from your reality. It's happening no matter what, because we're multidimensional beings. So that expressive energy and the influence on reality is as intense as your altered state of awareness. People could do anything that would actually physically influence something, such as telekinesis. Even if you move something just a tiny bit, that's still extraordinary. And I don't think anybody can just do it. It takes a lot of practice, and for other people, it takes a special kind of history in order for them to pick up on that so easily. But it is a phenomenon, and it's governed by the same principles of energy work. And you may have heard the word or the phrase that we're all connected to this environment. And ego death experiences is sort of like being the lack of ability to differentiate between yourself and your environment. Thus, a person basically feels that they're everything in their environment and has very little self-identification. Are you familiar with that, Rafi? Ego death?
Yeah. Familiar with people losing something?
Losing the ego, I call it a diminished or distilled, or like a ego dissolution, because I don't think ego death's possible.
I have seen people in very numerous states of ego dissolution, ego death, ego extension, people being dissociated from just their ego. It is interesting, and it affects a lot of spiritual work because the ego will come in back doors carrying a lot of energetic momentum, and if you accept that illusion, it'll take over your entire aura with that, intense whatever it's trying to bring. So I mean, there's a lot to be said about the ego, and I'm sure that it works into this system very interestingly. Would you want to talk about just the ego a little bit in relation to what you've been talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost pretty much done by now, but yeah, I'm gonna say that the reason why it's relevant is because the more you realize things like that your connection to your environment, and how closely related you are as a part of your environment, you realize your effect on your environment as well as its effect on you. And due to that, because of those realizations and understanding, to be able to foreseeably increase your energy flow even more so the more you practice those um, intuitive understandings really governs every day of our experience, because the more we experience, the more we build upon that experience, and the more we end up understanding more about our life and our reality ourselves, essentially. And so, yeah, that's all I'm saying is that ego death experience for someone who has ego dissolution, is someone who is being gifted with an experience that shows them how connected they are with their reality. Due to that, the connection is the reason why they're able to influence something with intention, and why energy work is a thing. Energy work generally, without talking about physical influences, also refers to, let's say this is you, and this is a fellow human being over here. So, now, because now this person is physically there with you, and let's say that you've meditated already and you've entered this increased energy flow state, and your energy expands out. Now, because of that, the increase in energy flow, this person over here is going to feel your emotions, feel when you speak to them, or even in their presence, are likely to notice you quicker and more easier, assuming you're not hiding your energy in any way. And when you speak to them, it'll speak to them more. It'll affect them more. They're more likely to pick up on the emotions you're trying to convey when you do speak. It's also another phenomenon with psychedelics. And that also gets into other topics such as telepathy, but I'm going to save that for another podcast. Their presence affects you too in your reception of energy, because these two are these receptions of energy and expressions of energy are happening simultaneously, but almost on two different layers as well. This and this. This person still has an outgoing energy flow, and it's not blocked, even though you have an increased energy flow that has a far more, or just a tiny bit more, of an increase of your energy. So this person here, not being in any special meditative state or altered state, will have an effect on you, just not as much as an effect on you as you do this person. And therefore, you're just not going to have as much of an effect from them as they do you. And because if somebody was aware of these foundational principles and basics on energy field expansion due to increased energy flow, then a person who is practicing these practices are likely to be more practically picking up on these things, rather than just not saying anything, but ultimately still feeling more than they normally feel from you. This connection here, this interaction, is another aspect of how we're connected to our environment. and how we affect it. Only this is another representation of another center of increase in energy reception and increase in expression of energy. It's just that because the person is another center, they're more affected. They're you can look at somebody as a portal, basically, to these other realms of existence. That this center in the physical, this focus point in the physical, is a way for these realms and their influence on physical reality to express itself through you. This being the focus point you have in the physical realm as a being who's born here. The focus point is a result of your consciousness before being born, having honed in and focused on becoming focused on the physical and ending up with a physical body. Thus, we have bodies. That body produces that anchor I was telling you about, crown, and then the diaphragm and the root. So, with another person here, they receive the energy just as much as you're receiving, like this, and they're also reacting to it, interpreting it, I could say, and express it into their environment. But as a result of feeling your energy, it's like an edit compared to someone sitting alone in a room. And because you are on the same multidimensional simultaneous existence as them, and anybody else for that matter, there's more access. Their focus, intention, and understanding of these things all affect how they process energy from you. Most people, who aren't in spirituality, just get affected by it, and they just don't understand why. Some people would pick up on somebody who's on very, 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 very high awareness, just like a state, as being weird, because it makes them feel weird, and they just feel this weirdness from you. It's not something that everybody runs around doing. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I guess
just, if you have another question, but
I do have another question. I guess the obvious thing to ask from this point on then is, how does one consciously interact with that energy realm that they are connected to, the ethereal realm, physical realm, the astral realm, their own aura, and how does that influence other people in the world around it? That's just the next obvious question that, I really do want to hear.
How okay, can you repeat the how does part? How does one do what?
How does one, like, when one has access to that realm, how do they affect other people, like, using it? Like, does somebody, like, can somebody consciously, like, stand next to somebody and, like, put thoughts in their heads, or, like, what is the scale of, like?
Yeah. Okay, so you would use this system basically to do things like that, but thoughts is more governed by the astral. So you'd be connecting them using your astral body and things like that. That's another subject again. But yes, no, generally projecting feelings in that way is something that you can intentionally do and project towards someone. And depending on how perceptive they are, they'll perceive it and understand it's coming from you, or they'll perceive it, it'll affect them, and they'll have no idea it's coming from you. And that's in general. So yeah, you can definitely using your focus, intention, and willpower being directly correlated with how much energy is going through you. Use those things to effectively focus on the person. And your attention is relevant as well, if you're just doing it just to experiment, or if you're a very bad person and trying to harm somebody for whatever reason, like or even in spiritual self-defense in regards to entities, is similar. All those is dependent, and so focus, willpower, and intention. All these three things add up to where your energy ends up going. So no potential or no actual focus when it comes to somebody, but they still affect their environment regardless.
When you say Reiki's like that,
Hold on, who say what?
when you say like Reiki is one of those things that like where you're using that to affect.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm not too familiar with Reiki, but I understand it's like what people use to heal individuals and things like that, right?
Recently, I've been able to
Hold on. We're gonna open it up for questions, Perpity, in just in a few minutes. Okay. Okay. Perfect. But so yeah, Crimson, this is all very interesting. I think maybe do you want to kind of put your final thoughts into a little ramble, and maybe we'll open it up to questions.
You want me to? Or
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you have any final thoughts.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just that this is all a general understanding of the basics of these things, mostly energy work and our multidimensional connection to the astral, ethereal, and dimensions below and beyond that, or above or below and beyond those. So this is a good start for people who are getting into it, or for those who are already into it, to get a practical understanding of what's going on when they choose to meditate, and they're having these effects of increased feelings, and understand the principle of how you affect your reality. And someone like the person who asked the question about Reiki is also someone who might understand who is how someone affects another person using their energy, but not necessarily understand what I'm expressing here. And so someone could still benefit from this despite their day-to-day practice. I'm going to disconnect the stream now. You can open up.
Yeah, I closed it on my computer just now.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was amazing, man. I think that was super interesting, and that if there's more that you would like to go into about this subject, I think we definitely could. There's definitely places that we skipped over. I think Dreamwalking was a huge one, and I might ask you about that a little teaser in the question segment myself, because I am curious about that. But we'll open it up to questions. Perpity, if you want to ask about Reiki, you can totally start, man. I'm sorry to cut you off earlier, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perpity Snip. You said
Perpity or anyone else? Yeah.
You said Reiki, so I think I said something in return, but you could have a response. I was saying that yes, that these foundational principles of energy work do apply to Reiki.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that's all I really wanted to say. I also just mentioned that like lately I've been able to use that. Had like people's like knotted up muscles like twitch when I put the energy on them.
You feel like vibrations in your hands and things like that.
Yeah, and feet.
Feet too, yeah.
And I affected a whole group of people with it on a psychedelic experience, and everybody had visuals. It was really interesting. And a moth flew into my palm and nestled into my palm. It was wild.
Animals and insects will react to energy flow states too, and that's also relevant to psychedelic experiences. I once had a butterfly land on my forehead and like stay there for like 40 seconds. My brother's like looking at me during the mushroom experience and was like, "Dude, there's a badass butterfly on your forehead," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Shh.
Drac'aar, you need to mute your mic.
Yeah, well, wanted to say great job on the interview, Drac'aar. Great job on the episode interview, Rafi. So appreciate that very much.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. I think it went well.
Yeah, and Kashika, or if anyone else wants to try their hand at an interview, you can always set up your own events, find your guests, record. The more people that do that, the better. But that was great. Do you want to do our little closing spiel, Rafi?
Well,
yeah.
I want to open it up for if anybody else wants to say something, give them a little time. And, yeah, if nobody wants to say anything, sure.
Yeah, does it have a question?
Well, I do want to ask about Dreamwalking, but maybe we could do a podcast where you talk about that entirely.
Sure, no, and you can also, I'm going to be in the voice chat later if you want to talk about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Drac'aar, for coming on. I think this was fantastic. If you've made it this far, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check us out on Discord. And thank you for the live audience for staying this long. I think it was fantastic. Drac'aar, you did a great job, and I was happy to interview you. And yeah, get out.
No, but join the Roundtable Discord server. We record this podcast every day at 8 o'clock. Like, follow, subscribe, YouTube, BitChute, and hashtag RT Podcast. That's the OCD ending.